Tonight was the State of the Union address by our President Joe Biden, and it was spicy, 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 spicy. I just want to come on here and just give what does it mean, like what to us, to Christians, to you know everyone. What are the key takeaways from the State of the Union address, and what does that mean going into the future? So let's talk. Please, please, please don't forget to like and subscribe however you're watching. If it's on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, share. If you're watching audio through one of the podcast providers, Apple Podcast, Spotify, etc., etc. Please make sure you follow me. Please make sure you drop a quick review and rate this podcast. It will help us combat the algorithm and continue to push this message going forward. So tonight's State of the Union address was very, very interesting. Joe Biden came out swinging a lot of energy. I think the Republicans, specifically Marjorie Taylor Greene, they kind of got hit with friendly fire. Because every time he said he was struggling and showing himself to kind of be vulnerable and to trip himself up, she would say something out loud to kind of mess him up. Listen, before I go into tonight, obviously, Joe Biden is too old to be president. I do not see how he will go through 4 more years of office. And if the GOP is smart, they would just be quiet and allow him to hang himself, allow him to show his age, allow him to show that he belongs in a nursing home. And this is not to talk bad about him. He's just acting his age, right? He's literally showing how a normal 80-something-year-old would be in his time. And us as the church, it's crucial because a lot of these democratic policies are here to affect the church and to bring down the church. However, we can't act like it's black and white where we could just sit there and support the Republicans when maybe the Democrats are actually the ones who are truly here to help support. Because this movement, this Republican and conservative movement of white nationalism is in full effect. And Project 25, look it up when you get a chance. Project 2025 is real. And this is why one of the biggest, the central points, the central running points that these candidates are running on, especially Donald Trump, is immigration. It's stoking like white fear. Like, hey, we are under attack. They are letting these illegals, as Joe Biden said it, illegals. He said it tonight, come into our country, and these illegals are threatening us as white people, and we have to be careful. But if you look all across the world, this is going to be a bigger issue, not just for the U.S. but throughout the world, and we have to be aware. And as a believer, is this okay? As a believer, should we not be sympathetic or empathetic towards our immigrants and those that need help and asylum? I'm a Haitian, so I may be a bit biased where I feel like we need some stuff for our Haitians. We need some stuff for those who are out there. But yet, it seems like most countries are closing their borders, and it's like every man fend for themselves. And this is a huge, huge point in today, and one of the biggest takeaways as you go through social media, as you go through, as you even go through this overall political response. You'll see how this. If you look at the Republican response, the crux of their arguments, two things: the economy and the American dream, and how these immigrants are coming into the country, running. This Senator Britt, Katie Britt, gave the example of speaking to someone that sat here and got caught up in a sex cartel. and how this was done through the person was an immigrant, and they brought these people in here, etc., etc. As you're about to see, Marjorie Taylor Greene forced Joe Biden to say the name Laken Riley, and this person was one that got shot at the by an immigrant, and as again Joe Biden's going to say by an illegal. So watch this clip.
It's not about him. It's not about me. I'd be a winner. Not really. Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand. But look, if we change the dynamic at the border, people pay these smugglers $8,000 to get across the border because they know if they get by and let into the country, it's 6 to 8 years before they have a hearing. And it's worth taking the chance of the $8,000. But if it's only 6 weeks, the idea is it's highly unlikely that people will pay that money and come all that way knowing that they'll be able to be kicked out quickly.
So it's scary to me because this is the major a sticking point by the GOP tonight. Just the fact that Joe Biden mispronounced this person's name as opposed to saying Laken Riley, he said Lincoln Riley. Again, I'm not saying that our president has some issues. He's acting his age. But you're not. But if this is the one thing you want to put your hat to hang your hat on, that this is the reason why this is going on, and we're in trouble. Tonight was an absolute crap show with Biden yelling, stopping his speech at certain points to talk back to the Republicans. Poor Mike Johnson. I think Mike Johnson, in his first real opportunity on a public stage, to see him, deep down inside, it looks like he is not happy with what his party is doing, but he has to be a political person. He has to sit here and ride his team. Because sometimes you would see the head shaking and the eye roll and behind Joe Biden when his people would do things incorrectly. And to see him, I kind of felt for him. I really believe that he sincerely loves God and he's a believer. But this is why politics are not a place, I believe, for Christians. Because as a Christian, you rarely find a person that supports Christ above their political party. When you sign off for politics, and it's either right or wrong, but that's just, it is what it is. Your political party becomes your God. You have to vote according to political lines, swallow and support certain things, and not talk about certain things because it's a bigger picture. It's a bigger plan. So I really feel for him. I think he's in a bad spot. I think he's in a spot where he's forced to support something that he's not deep down inside with, but he has to because he's A, Republican in politics, and B, he's a prominent one. So he may not be able to speak his mind as freely because that will threaten his political career, and that will cause other issues down the road. But it was absolutely chaotic. And as a believer, to watch the world operate this way, it scares me. To see how there's no more decorum, how there's no more love, there's no more me. It's so extreme, right? It's either you're Republican or you're Democrat. There's no moderates. There's no middle. There's no independence. It's just I hate you because you're a Democrat, or I hate you because you're a Republican. And you know what? And watching believers and Christians and pastors and so on and so forth to support that rhetoric, it's scary. Like, it should be a point where you sit here and be like, listen, let's promote love. Yeah, you're a Democrat, and I may not agree with everything that's your party supports, but I could still have a civil conversation. I could respect leadership enough to say the president of the U.S. is having a State of the Union, and I'm able to quietly and respectfully listen to his speech. The U.S. over the last 10 years or so has become an embarrassment where you would want to, I would love to have my son who's 10 one day sit here and watch this together, watch this, a speech by the president, but it's so divisive and have people screaming and shit. It's embarrassing. The Republicans should be embarrassed with themselves. And, but this issue of immigration is a big one. It's going to, I think, ultimately decide the election. The perception out there is Donald Trump is the guy that could secure the borders, and I think, and this is so heavy that he has literally told the Republican Congress people, the politicians, the ones in the Senate, the ones in the House, do not pass an immigration reform bill until I get into office, because I want to run on that particular issue. Like, bro, like, to hear that, and this is something that Joe Biden brought back up. He said, we agreed upon a particular bill, but you refused it. If you can sit here and give me something, I will sign it. And he went on, as you saw in the clip, to highlight the different points regarding immigration that sits there and allows that he was ready to approve, but the Republicans shut down. I think that if he hangs his head on that, he should be fine. If he continues, but however, on a macro, which is bigger than the election, I know it's a really, really big deal, but on a macro, climate, cultural level, we're getting more and more divisive, and the church needs to stand up and not get caught up into this. This issue, this movement of white nationalism is dangerous. And it's really, and it's found very foundation is found in this issue with immigration. Also briefly, so again, the biggest point was immigration, and the biggest takeaway from that was just the overall this yelling and poor decorum for a State of the Union. Another big topic is speaking of, because it's weird. The biggest issues are outside of our borders. It's immigration. It's talking about what happens within our borders, but it's also what happens outside. If these other countries can take care of themselves, then immigration becomes less of an issue. If folks are able to stay home and stay in their homeland, they would not want to come into the U.S. But the other big issue, I think the biggest thing I took away from is his mention of Israel and Palestine, where he told the line, as he always does, when he sits there, because he understands his party. He in a very huge state of Michigan, Muslims are not happy with him because they feel he should make a bigger stand. And I think the church's stand is, I'm not talking about these folks who are ignorant, but the stand of the church needs to be, let's stand with justice. The same outrage we have with the Jewish casualties should be the same outrage we have for the Palestinian ones. One particular child does not carry more weight in the eyes of God than the other. God is not sitting here and saying, oh well, that's a Palestinian kid. Hey, you get what you get. The God that we serve is a loving and compassionate God. So we're not saying to ignore the Jewish casualties and the deaths. but the same energy you have for the Jewish ones, have for the Palestinian ones. But he told the line, as you're about to see, he told the line, and said that let us Israel has a right to defend their land. He emphasized what happened on October the 7th and how bad that was. One of the biggest tragedy, biggest losses since the Holocaust, which is all fair. But he also told the line where he said it's important to get aid to Palestine. Watch this.
This crisis began on October 7th with a massacre by a terrorist group called Hamas, as you all know. 1,200 innocent people, women and girls, men and boys, slaughtered after enduring sexual violence. The deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust, and 250 hostages taken. Here in this chamber tonight are families whose loved ones are still being held by Hamas. I pledge to all the families that we will not rest until we bring every one of your loved ones home. We also
So you see how he told the line and kind of played the middle and played defense. He I was watching that stuff. I don't feel for him at all. He's in a tough spot. He's in a tough spot because he's in a time where you cannot talk bad about the Jews, but he also understands that a very big part of his base is the Muslim base. They got him into office, and every day that he's silent, they find him to be complicit. So I don't know. I would love to talk to you guys in the comments. How should he approach it? How should he in this political landscape? How should he approach it? How should he handle this situation? What should he do? But yeah, that was also a good point. How he mentioned it, like it was very. I mean, outside the beef and the drama, it was very uneventful. There was no, typical points, the typical like you could predict the economy and different things he's gonna say and blah blah blah. But this was definitely a campaign speech as opposed to like a political State of the Union. It's more like okay, Nikki Haley's out the way. Trump, this is me and you again. Let me throw the first salvo. And I tweeted. I don't know who chose. I think her name was Katie Britt, from Alabama, out of all states, who just banned IVF. Alabama, yes, the wonderful state of Alabama. They chose her to give a speech, and I watched it. It was demonic. She would come and begin like with a very like soft and our country, this country, and she would just like exorcist change up and become so serious, and her eyes just bulge out, and like it's like a Lifetime movie. It was a very bad, very poor choice. This goes to this goes to the point where Republicans are bad at running campaigns. They're very out of touch. That's the problem with the GOP. They are out of touch to realize like that person out of all people, the background is a kitchen, right? They put her in the kitchen from Alabama to have that tone that it's so out of touch. They are getting dragged on social media. Whoever chose this, who orchestrated this, needs to be fired tomorrow. Horrible, horrible choice. But yeah, nonetheless, I wanted to hop on here, man, and to share my thoughts and to share and to show the highlights of the State of the Union. What does it mean to us? Because we as believers, we got to see things from a different lens. We can't be extreme and so divisive. We must, of course, keep our eyes on God. So tell me what you think. Reach out to me on Twitter. If you're on YouTube, let's talk in the comments. Let's have a conversation. Give me a review. Out of 5 stars, how did Joe Biden do? 1 being crappy and 5 being the best. Give me a review of how well he did and your thoughts on this. And how do you feel overall about the state of our union, the United States? But again, thank you for listening. I appreciate your time. God bless you. I love you. Peace.